where we are right now is, well, we need to know our collections. So this is just really about surveying. It's not really about anything else. But why you survey is depending for lots of different reasons. So mainly to do with collection care. So why we survey is because we want to find out what type of objects do we have. And in the museum, you can see, and in your monasteries, even within your private homes, you have lots of different types of objects. You have maybe ritual objects, you have meditational aids. Your building itself is your biggest object. Yeah, your gompa is a major object. Another reason why you might survey to find out, it's like an inventory, to survey and to know what your manuscripts, for instance, that you want to digitize, or if you want to, say, have images of all of your statues, then you would need to know, oh, well, do I need to stabilize something before taking an image of it? Maybe because so the photographer can handle it well. Another reason is to survey is to know, I need to move this collection. What big truck do I need? Do I need packing materials? Do I have like multiple object types? Do I have very big object types, or do I have small ones? Do I have books? And to be able to move them safely. Yeah, makes sense? Okay, all right. Risk assessments is just like, what is the risk involved in moving the objects, or what is the risk with coming into contact? Will you be at risk, or will the object be at risk? Some objects have hazards in them, maybe not so much in some of the collections here, but I think we spoke later on that some objects maybe might have some arsenic, or they were treated before with something that has a bad chemical inside. So having your history, even your history of how long the object has been on display, what the lighting levels were, because then you know you can display it for longer, or maybe you have to let it rest. You may have a new gift from someone that's come into your collection or your monastery, and so you want to check to see, does that gift have mold, any mold on it accidentally? You know, does it have any insects? Because if it has those things, then you wouldn't want to put it into the collection straight away. You might survey, like what we did a few days ago when we went to look around the museum. We were surveying. We were looking at what were the risk of the collections, how we can improve. That's the survey. Yeah, but you need to know what the risks are. We also have, I mean, I'm not going to go into business continuity plans. This just seems like, but actually, no, I will. So if for instance, you have your gompa, and you have your museum, and what happens if all of a sudden, for instance, COVID happened, or God forbid, earthquake happened? How will you, as a monastery, how will you as a museum try to get your service to your community back up and running? So you would lay out what would be the first things that you would do. Access. Yeah, and if there was a major earthquake, sometimes what happens in these emergencies, you get people coming in and, oh, I'll help you, but then they might help themselves to the object. So you things to think about. We survey for emergency preparedness and response. So we'll walk around the outside of the building, the inside of the building, and you can even check individual objects. I think we had plenty of examples when we were doing the survey in the museum space, and we will be asking you all to present on that. So be prepared tomorrow. Okay, yeah. All right. Then, you only have so many people, you only have so much resources, yeah? And you only have so much materials. So what you do is you try to make sure that, where am I going to spend my time? Where am I going to spend my resources, my money? How do you make those decisions? And we'll look at that. What is your criteria for making those decisions? Okay. The condition assessment is a big one, especially for conservators, which is what condition is your object in. Can you identify whether something is stable or unstable? You know, can I use this mass in this particular ritual, or will, you know, some part of it drop off? It has to be stable. Yeah? So we're looking at that. So that's one way of surveying. Some people say inventorying as well is, you know, to make sure that everything is in place. And if it isn't in place, then, you know, we have this saying, it's not in place, so that's the risk. That's actually one of the 10 agents of deterioration. Yeah, it's called disassociation. So that's the overall condition of the collection. So looking like an entire storeroom, one storeroom and then another storeroom. And, you know, you have an impact of events. So this could be a puja. You know, this could be making a sun mandala. Maybe somebody is coming in and filming what this is, how this is doing. But then if you film, look, we've got so much cameras. Sometimes you have lights. Sometimes you have wires. So you want to assess, you know, is there a risk? Is there a risk that the camera is going to bash into a tanka, or someone's going to trip and fall? Yeah? Okay. And you, most importantly nowadays for us, if you want to digitize your collection and you need to make a case for funding, then you have to say, well, I need a strong case. I have, how many objects do you have? I don't know. So you know that by searching for it. I know I have 108 objects, yeah? And I know out of that 108 objects, we have 60% are completely unique. Yeah, they're nowhere else in the world, and it was used by a very important person, very important lama or rinpoche, and in this particular ritual. So then that adds value to your business case to try and get funding. Or maybe you need to ask your geshe, look, this is very important. So we need to know, why is it important? Yeah. So we collect this data. So this is going into a collection store. These should be lined, the shelves, with something soft and inert. And what we would be doing is going through and looking at, you know, normally the size, the deities of a similar size would be, you know, together. Sometimes maybe you want to put your like raffle deities together. Maybe you want to put your semi-raffle deities together. Maybe you want to put your compassionate, your deities together, and so you have to decide and make the use of most of your storage. So if you have like lots of say parabas or damarus, anything like that, you group your objects together, but you only know if you go into your storage area and see, or where you keep these things. So we would survey and check, what is the condition? How do we prioritize? So for conservators, a lot of the time, and in any sort of environment, you decide what works for you. I'm just giving you, because we've done this all together, giving you a few examples. So maybe you decide on 3 elements, which is the condition of the object, how rare or valuable it is, yeah, and the frequency of use, yeah, and type of use. So if you're going to go and put, for instance, the statue in a display case, then it's safe, yeah. But if you're going to have to handle the manuscripts over and over again, it's very important that people touch them, then I would say that that's bigger priority than this statue that's just going to be in a case and no one's going to come into contact. And maybe this is more rare, but because this is going to be handled, then maybe we would spend our time and our resources to do that. But you decide. It's okay? It's okay? Right. Right. This is actually a tanka store at a museum that Mike and I have worked at. So all these drawers pull out and they're all flat and it's very wonderful. And now they have boards that you can carry them on. But we had to survey the entire collection, which is around 257 tankas, and because we had to move them. So even though the storage was very good, we still had to do something, and we needed to know what was the size of each one, and we made a board for each one, and we checked what is the condition of it, what's the condition of the brocade, what was the condition of the paint, all of those things. But what are your survey steps? You have to, what is the main purpose of the survey? Who will gather the information and how? Meaning, will you write it down? Or will you put it on an Excel spreadsheet or on a computer? And then how will you keep that information? Because that information is valuable, yeah? Not only for this generation, but for future generations. And the condition may change, so this is great. Maybe you'll see something and somebody said, oh no, this was, you know, from this particular painter. And then you look at it and go, oh no, but you have to back it up. That you've got evidence to back that up with. Can you do people need to have training in how to handle the objects? Can you do the objects in the storage area, or do you have to bring them out because the storage area is too small and only one person could be in there safely? Make sense? Yeah? Okay. So, you know, wearing your personal protective equipment, do you need gloves? Do you need your coat? Do you need lights? Do you need a magnifying glass? You know, like how we had before when we were looking? Yeah. And sometimes we'll write down what are the methods of doing it, and how we time ourselves. Yeah. How long does it take for us to look at an entire storage area, or how long does it take for us to look at one shelf on a library? Yeah. So this would be fields. It's something that I've said already, but basically we have, you know, I do with a spreadsheet and then I color code everything, but sometimes that's a bit too much. So you might have an image, for instance, you'll have an image of the object, and then you might have to, especially with some objects, you might need front and back, like a tanka. You might have the measurements, you might have the condition, where it is, or any needs, but it depends on your particular survey. This one is the object. This is just a diagram. We'll do it very quickly. So this is your object or your building, how it is used, what are the risks, what are the opportunities, because sometimes if you take lots of digital images, then maybe people can gift you money because they want access to it, or they make donations, or, you know, it helps because it's seeing the things and interacting with them are a seed for the Buddha Dharma. And then you want to preserve the object, but because every time you handle an object, you're at risk at causing damage. So, but the whole point of having the object is so people can have access. There's no point of having it if no one's going to use it. Yeah? Okay. These are the condition ratings, which you have in the text, in the group. So we have, I color code things, but, you know, good, fair, poor condition, unacceptable. So, you know, you can handle it safely, nothing to do. You keep it in a good environment. For the object or the museum, you know, it has some damage, but there's no need to do anything. There's no elements dropping off. With poor, some bits are coming off or have become detached, but you can still handle it. And 4 is when it's completely, anytime you handle it, you will cause damage. Yeah, so then you decide, maybe I don't need to do anything with the objects that are in stable, meaning good to fair condition, but I need to do something to the objects that are in poor and acceptable, because we're going to lose some special part of this object. Yeah? This is what doing a survey looks like. Normally you're in some really uncomfortable space, there's not much room. And so here we're doing it with, you know, laptops and lights and magnifiers. Other times we need step ladders, taking the images. And then what you can do is different areas. Sometimes you need scaffolding in order to do these sorts of surveys. Other times you're working in very nice areas. These are, you know, all in the global north, so it's a bit harder. And then what you're collecting, all that data, gives you information on how you're going to treat it, in which order you're going to treat and to what extent. These are the same paper repairs that y'all have done today. Same thing. And this is so that the photographers can handle this document safely, so we don't give them something that's going to be tricky for them to handle. And this, because we work a lot on digitization projects, different types of, this is 3D photogrammetry, so we can have the object and you could see it completely 360, and sometimes you support books. I'm sure you've all seen this. Sometimes with the tankas we might lay them flat to take an image of the front and back. Other times it's so big we have to hold it up and support it. Everybody's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. I have a little challenge with some of these things, but whenever you do conservation work and you make things nice and flat, you need more space because you've looked after it. So the edges of this manuscript, this Jain manuscript, they were damaged, and because it's in a museum, they decided to put it like this, which is problematic because then it looks like 2D works on a wall when it is a manuscript. So that changes the nature. So this is inert material that the plans that were folded up are now completely flat, but sometimes you might have to roll them. All right, this is just looking at, once you have collected all of your information, you need to analyze it. So you need to present it. So you know that actually the most damaged material that we have are actually our costumes and our masks because they get heavily used. Then maybe your second most damage is your manuscripts. So where are you going to spend the majority of your time and resources? This is just something from the English Heritage where they've done, oh, well, this is, I know how much of my collection is broken up into these different object types. So majority of their collection is archaeology. So we know this now. We didn't know this before. Maybe it's important for some people, maybe it isn't. Right. I wanted to get back to the other one, but it doesn't matter. And that's just a little on surveying the collections. But I think once it's not only your collections, because we keep talking about the collections, but there's no point in doing anything. We could spend 100 hours working on one text, but if you're going to put that text back into a space where the water is leaking, you've got UV coming in on it, people are handling it badly, any conservator will turn around and say, well, I'm not going to touch it until you sort that out, because then we are going to cause more problems. Yeah, so you survey your buildings, your storage, how you work, and then also do your objects.